Good morning, everyone. I am here today to announce an important lawsuit that our office is filing, but I cannot begin this press conference without first acknowledging the horrific shooting in Texas. And I just want to say, as Attorney General, I am heartbroken and sickened by yet another mass shooting like this. The incidents we've seen continue to mount, and it's truly unbelievable what is happening in our country and the failure of leaders to act and take the necessary steps needed to protect the health and safety of our residents, and most importantly, our most vulnerable among us, our young people. And so I just want to be clear with the people of Massachusetts, I will continue to do everything that I can to work to ensure safety, to work to address issues of violence, to continue to enforce the gun laws that we have here in our state that make a lot of sense. I also call upon Congress to act, to pass legislation, to do the most basic things that the vast, vast majority of Americans believe in, irrespective of political party, and those are common sense reforms, background checks, closing loopholes, and measures that are intended and will make a meaningful difference. So I just want to say that to people this morning. I am not here to offer thoughts and prayers. I am not here to offer a moment of silence. I am here to stand in solidarity with parents who sent their kids off to school, hugged them tighter last night, hugged them tighter this morning, to say that I will do whatever I can to make sure that action is taken. And I call on all of us collectively to demand that of our leaders, in particular the Senate right now in Congress. And with that, I'd like to invite our guests to the stage. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. With me today are people who are incredibly important to this morning's announcement and help make today's announcement possible. We have with us DEP Commissioner Marty Suberg, Speaker Pro Tem Kate Hogan, and Senator Julian Cyr, who co-chair the legislature's PFAS Interagency Task Force, Jeff Beckwith, Executive Director of the Massachusetts Municipal Association, Jim Vuona, Chief of the Shrewsbury Fire Department and President of the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, Michael Wynn, Chief of the Centerville, Osterville, Marston Mills Fire Department and former President of the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, Rich McKinnon, President of the Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts, Deirdre Cummings, Legislative Director of MassPIRG, and Laura Spark, Senior Policy Advocate for Clean Water Action, as well as Alex, who is coming to us today from the Silent Spring Institute. By my side are members of my team who are responsible for making this day possible: Assistant Attorneys General Lou Dundon, Andy Goldberg, Jillian Riley, and Chief Betsy Harper, all from our Environmental Protection Division, along with Special Assistant Attorneys General John Gilmore and William Jackson, who are working on this important case. We come together today to announce a significant lawsuit involving toxic chemicals, PFAS, that have created costly and long-lasting harm to our communities here in Massachusetts. Today, we're holding accountable the 13 makers of PFAS for producing, marketing, and selling firefighting foam containing these dangerous chemicals. We are also holding accountable 2 companies who shielded assets that should be available to remedy the damages caused from this contamination. PFAS. PFAS is a chemical, a collection of chemicals that are out there. They're known as forever chemicals because their chemistry keeps them from breaking down under typical environmental conditions. The CDC has found that they're even in the bloodstream of nearly everyone in the United States in some degree or another. In short, they stick around for a really, really long time. As Rich McKinnon and Michael Wynn can attest to, firefighters, the military, industrial facilities, and airports have used PFAS-containing foam since the 1960s to extinguish fires. It's also been used frequently in firefighting training exercises and to test equipment. But over time, the use of these toxic chemicals has really wreaked havoc on our communities, causing hundreds, if not thousands, of gallons of foamy water every year be laced with PFAS, contaminating our soil and our water. And once that happens, these are forever chemicals, it's really, really hard to remove and to address. Already, alone in Massachusetts, our cities and towns have been forced to pay millions of dollars just in cleanup costs and have undertaken massive efforts to address the harm done to our water supplies and natural resources. Over 86 communities, including Stowe, Chicopee, Weymouth, Abington, Cape Cod, Rockland, have water systems with serious levels of PFAS contamination. This is water that our residents need for drinking, farming, irrigation, bathing, and cooking. Contamination from PFAS has also ended up in our precious coastal zones. Think about Cape Cod, Cape Ann, and the Elizabeth Islands, putting our shellfish, our marine life, and our state's diverse wildlife at risk. It's contaminated our rivers and tributaries, including the Merrimack and the Shawshene River, which negatively impact our diverse ecosystem. And of course, in Massachusetts, we need to protect tourism, recreation, and fishing industries that rely on clean water and are vital to our economy. When it comes to public health, the impact of PFAS is devastating. Exposure is associated with serious health issues, including a weakened immune system, developmental issues for children, testicular and kidney cancers, liver damage, and thyroid diseases. Our lawsuit today goes after the manufacturers who looked past all of these harms for decades, and kept selling and putting this foam product out there, including selling and pushing it to government entities, municipalities, local fire departments, and businesses right here in Massachusetts. Their actions violate state and federal laws that are intended to protect our residents and place costly burdens on our communities that are now forced to clean up this mess. Today's lawsuit joins hundreds of lawsuits around the country from state AGs, municipalities, and public and private water districts against the makers of PFAS. These are manufacturers who attempted to hide just how dangerous this foam was, who prevented their workers from discussing the dangers of their products. Despite the fact that PFAS was toxic, these makers continued to make and sell their products without disclosing the harms. They downplayed the presence of PFAS, and the list goes on. It's not only dangerous, it is illegal, and that is why I am bringing suit. We're holding these manufacturers accountable for their deception, requiring them to pay back every last dollar our state has spent on their products to clean up the contamination. We want them to restore our precious natural resources and ensure that the water we drink and use in our daily lives is not at risk as a result of PFAS products here in Massachusetts. And we want to protect our firefighters who every day face the dangers of PFAS. We want them to be not at further risk of toxic chemical exposures that can cause cancer and chronic disease. PFAS contamination is a public health issue. We've repeatedly called on Congress and the EPA to enact strong regulatory standards and to help our communities with the costs of treating and cleaning up this mess. My team, Andy Goldberg in particular, has been part of the legislature's PFAS Interagency Task Force with Senator Sear and Representative Hogan, who are both here today, to speak more about the recommendations from their recent report. We need everyone in this room at the local, state, and federal level to come together on this issue. I am so pleased to be joined by so many people in this room today on behalf of our municipalities, firefighters, and environmental advocates who have long called for change. Today, we are taking action and seeking the accountability that our residents and our communities deserve. I'd now like to invite Commissioner Suberg to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney General. And I really want to commend you for your action today because it makes such a difference to so many communities and individuals that are dealing with PFAS right now. As you know, the Baker-Polito administration set rules based on the most up-to-date health information regarding PFAS to protect our drinking water, to govern cleanups, and we are working with a number of communities that are addressing these issues. And when they find PFAS, there are both short and long-term actions they need to take. As you've noted, they are expensive, hundreds of millions of dollars committed already and more as we move forward. And so this action helps communities and it helps individuals by bringing to the table people who are responsible for the production of this product. I am committed on behalf of the Baker-Polito administration to work with you and your administration and your team to move this case forward as we continue to protect our water supplies, as we continue to work with our communities, and as we continue to address this issue. We will make sure that we are responsive and moving forward. And once again, I would like to commend the Attorney General for this action today.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your partnership in all of this. I'd now like to invite Speaker Pro Tem Kate Hogan to the podium.
Thank you so much, Attorney General Healey, for being here today to protect all of us. I represent several small towns and private wells, community wells, in a region that's been hard hit by PFAS contamination in drinking water, including neighborhoods near fire stations, fire training sites, military sites, and airports. I can attest to the burden that is placed on our towns as they navigate PFAS challenges in real time, creating workarounds, and truly amazing to see, yet very expensive, and at present the cost of PFAS cleanup of our drinking water is borne by the very same homeowners, taxpayers, and ratepayers who have discovered PFAS in their drinking water. It's challenging for small municipalities to determine the most effective path for identifying and remediating contamination, and a lack of coordinated resources only compounds this challenge. My town has been working closely with the Mass DEP. It has truly been an incredibly productive partnership to address detection and remediation, but these situations cannot continue to be addressed in isolation. Our own legislature's PFAS interagency task force was convened to strengthen our capacity to respond with the right resources at the right time. The task force identified AFFF as a primary source of PFAS contamination and recommended dedicating state resources to mitigate the use and impact of AFFF in our Commonwealth. The Attorney General's ability to call companies to account will do a great deal to alleviate the environmental and financial impact on towns reliant on private and community wells. While firefighters, towns, and airports en masse have filed lawsuits against manufacturers, it is critical to pursue litigation at the state level. I stand here today to applaud Attorney General Maura Healey for taking this bold step to hold manufacturers accountable and to provide relief to impacted communities. Attorney General Healey and Massachusetts are sending a strong message to manufacturers that the state will no longer tolerate those companies endangering our residents, our firefighters, and our natural resources.
Thank you so much. Senator Julian Cyr.
Thank you, Attorney General. The widespread use of PFAS since the mid-20th century has resulted in contamination of our waters and in our environment and poses a health risk to too many in the Commonwealth, particularly those in public service, our firefighters among them. I really want to thank the Attorney General and her amazing team for the work that's been done to bring this lawsuit, this occurring in partnership and concert with the work of the task force, the leadership of Speaker Pro Tem Hogan, in really getting our hands around what is a very extensive and costly issue. And while we are working to allocate resources in the legislature and putting forward a roadmap around how we phase out PFAS in our environment and reduce the risk of health exposures, this lawsuit is really going to begin to garner the true resources that we need to address the issue and have those responsible for these effects paying for it. So I'm very encouraged by the Attorney General's vision and partnership on this issue, on so many issues, and I'm just really honored to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Rich McKinnon, President of the Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts, representing the over 12,000 firefighters and their families across this great state. And we're honored today to stand here in partnership with A.G. Healey in this fight against occupational cancer in the fire service, which has become an epidemic. More firefighters die of occupational cancer than anything else we face. And this PFAS, these forever chemicals, has been proven and linked to cause these cancers that our firefighters get. So we see this as a great step in that fight against the epidemic of firefighter cancer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rich. Thank you all for your comments, and at this time, we'd like to open it up for questions.
David Abel at the Boston Globe has a question.
General, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Just if you could explain how, more detail, how this lawsuit fits in with many other lawsuits that have been filed by other states and by other government entities, and I understand was filed just in South Carolina. It should be helpful to understand how this would be consolidated with other lawsuits and how the interests that you are representing in Massachusetts reflected in larger lawsuits.
Well, thanks for the question, David, and my team can give you more specific background, but there is what's called multi-district litigation that is happening right now in South Carolina. We have a situation when there are probably 700 lawsuits that have been filed against PFAS manufacturers, and those cases are basically all going to be consolidated and heard before a single federal district court judge. That will ensure efficiency and consistency in the administration of justice here. It is why my team made the decision to file there and not in Massachusetts. Our job is to go out and to try to secure the greatest relief for our residents and for our communities, and this is the best way for us to pursue that. But I think it speaks to, David, just how pervasive this PFAS issue is. And PFAS is in a lot of stuff, a lot of consumer products. It's in the foam that we speak of. It's a real issue. And I just really appreciate the efforts of the legal team here in the Attorney General's office for their dogged investigation, for their collaboration with partners. I appreciate so much the work of the legislature in taking on what is a really challenging issue, because it's going to take a lot of money to go out and clean this up, to remedy this for the health and well-being of our residents, our waterways, our soil, our communities. But today is an important step for Massachusetts.
Thank you. We have Greg Lamont at DBH. Greg?
Thank you, very much. Just want to ask you to speak a little bit more specifically about which of these are these, and then also what amount would be necessary to cover the expenses.
Well, thanks, Craig. We've named 13 companies who make PFAS, and then 2 others who we allege were involved in shielding assets. And so we have a list that we can give you. I mean, at the top are some of these names you've heard of: 3M, Tyco, DuPont, Buckeye, Clarinet, Dynex, AGC, Archroma, Arkema, ChemGuard, National Foam, Corteva. There are others, but there are 13 and 2 that we have gone after. And what was your second question, Craig? The amount? I mean, the amount is in the billions in terms of what's probably going to be necessary to remedy the issue. You think about contamination in the Shawshene River, in the Merrimack River. You think about the Cape and Islands, what's happening. And then you think also about the personal harm and threat. I spoke earlier about the cancers and the chronic diseases that result from exposure to PFAS. So our job is to work together collectively. I really appreciate the work of the legislature. I really appreciate the work of our municipalities. And I really appreciate the work of environmental advocates who are working together to support our firefighters and our residents. And again, I want to thank the legal team in this office for the work that they have done in putting this case together.
Next, we have Barbara Moran at WUR.
Thanks for this. I was wondering why you chose to go after firefighting foam when PFAS is in so many products. So can you sort of explain what the thinking is of why you went after firefighting foam?
Well, the answer to that, Barbara, is that we know that there are specific harms that those exposed to firefighting foam have experienced, will experience. We know that this is a persistent and prevalent issue, and so that has been our focus. And you're absolutely right, PFAS is in products that range from nonstick cookware to cosmetics to fast food wrappers and stain-resistant clothing. The job here is to go after the makers of this. The applications varied, but Barbara, our focus and our lens is on targeting the people that actually made PFAS in whatever form, so that we're able to recover and secure money to help remedy the situation. Yeah. Does anyone wish to add anything further on that? No? Okay. We will keep you posted, but again, Massachusetts, this is a place where we really take seriously what's happening in our soil and our water with sediments, protecting our natural resources, protecting the health and well-being of our residents, and we certainly will continue to work to try to do what we can with our federal delegation, who I know is focused on this, in securing relief and monies for the Commonwealth to help address and remedy this situation. Thank you all. And thank you all for being here today and in this joint effort. We really appreciate it. Okay. Great.